Today's dialogue is set to explore a rumour finding traction amongst conspiracy theorists outside and within the project. The theory that it might be possible that the USCSS Nostromo was not destroyed in 2122 when Ellen Ripley activated the vessel's self-destruct sequence. This theory is a wild one and not something the project would usually choose to cover, simply due to its outlandish nature. However, traction has been building for it, and we would like to see if there is any way that the theory could hold water, and if not, why not? The commercial towing vessel USCSS Nostromo was an M-class Lockmart CM-88B Bison transport. In the year 2122, it was transporting 20 million tons of mineral ore from the planet Thetis back to Earth. On its return trip, the vessel was pulled out of FTL after discovering a signal of unknown origin, emanating from the moon LV-426. After the crew were awoken, investigated, and were one by one picked off by a hostile alien species known as Xenomorph XX121, there was a sole survivor in Ellen Louise Ripley. Warrant Officer Ripley was able to dispatch the creature from her escape vessel the Narcissus, after seemingly destroying the USCSS Nostromo and its cargo through a self-destruct program in a prior attempt to rid herself of the creature. The first thing to discuss about this theory would be how, if the vessel was not destroyed, how did it survive? The main point that supports its destruction would be the massive explosion recorded by the Narcissus and recounted by Ellen Ripley during her testimonial to the Weyland-Yutani board after she was recovered from the frontier in 2179. This massive explosion was caused by the detonation of the ship's reactor. So, if that is the case, how could it be possible for the ship to have survived? Well, for that we would need to have looked a little bit closer into Special Order 937, that both the ship and the crew were currently operating under at the time. Weyland-Yutani Company Special Order 937 called for the return of a xenomorph specimen at all costs, crew being expendable in this regard. The Special Order allowed for the synthetic sleeper agent aboard the Nostromo named Ash to sabotage his own crew and defend the creature in order to secure its safe return to Weyland-Yutani. So it does seem that the mother computer system aboard the Nostromo, that was the one that actually was given the order, would also have the capability of protecting the company's interests. If this is true, then why would Mother allow the ship's reactor to be overloaded by Ripley, potentially destroying the alien specimen in the process, going directly in the face of Mother's orders under 937? We know that she can at least pull the ship and the crew out of FTL in order to respond to the signal, so it's likely that the ship's AI has much more power due to the activation of the order than originally thought. If this is correct, some have speculated that it might be possible for Mother to somehow eject the Nostromo's reactor core from the vessel in order to save the ship from destruction and protect the specimen within. A handy visual has been constructed by the project to demonstrate how this could have worked. With the Nostromo and the Narcissus both being away from their reactor core, reaching a minimum safe distance before the reactor went up in a massive explosion, this would allow for both vessels to have survived, theoretically. However, since reaching out to Lockmart on the CM-88B Bison M-class ships, and their potential ability to eject their own reactor core in order to save the ship from annihilation during an accident or being done deliberately, we heard back that it is not possible for the reactor core to be removed from the ship without a lot of work. These things are built in. They don't just eject like a life pod or a lifeboat. Some have brought up the fact that the xenomorph wasn't aboard the Nostromo at the time, so Mother would have no reason to conduct any dramatic attempt to save the creature. However, it has been suggested that the Xenomorph XX121 drone aboard the ship had begun the egg morphing process on the crew of the Nostromo that it had killed or captured prior to its retreat to the Narcissus. This would mean that if the Nostromo's main bulk was somehow able to survive its own destruction, then it could still theoretically be out there somewhere, containing several overmorphs awaiting hosts, something that the company could locate and collect as soon as they were able to track it down. Another thing that puts this theory into great question is the recovery of the Nostromo's flight recorder in the year 2137. The flight recorder was recovered by the USCSS Nostromo and delivered to Sevastopol Station before its destruction in the same year. A flight recorder is ejected from a spacecraft just prior to or following its destruction, depending on the circumstances and the level of damage to the craft. In the Nostromo's case, it probably would have been just prior due to the fact that the reactor likely would have obliterated it. I'm not exactly certain how durable these things are. It's likely that they have some level of resistance to physical damage because of their nature. They are something you want to survive a cataclysmic event on a starship or a station. But surviving an entire nuclear blast is yet to be seen or yet to be understood from the project's point of view. However, again, I guess the theory could come down to how much Mother is able to control the ship's systems. As if it was possible, she could eject the flight recorder the same as she ejected the ship's reactor in the Narcissus, meaning that the ship still could have gotten away somehow. But at this stage, the theory remains just that, a theory, and currently impossible to substantiate, with most evidence pointing towards the ship having been destroyed when its reactor went up. But if anyone else has any additional information on the fate of the vessel, we will be sure to share it with the project and throughout our media channels. We are always reading and listening. Before you close transmission, I want to show you the ACHERON Colonial Marketplace, the one-stop shop for all Project ACHERON's merchandise. All proceeds go to fund our future endeavours under the project. So if you want to support the project and look good doing it, pick up some ACHERON merch. But what other data logs would you like to see? If you have any ideas or have any questions to be answered, please leave them in the comments, on the LV426 Discord, or on the LV223 subreddit. If you really want to support what we do here and gain a bunch of awesome rewards, consider joining as a Project ACHERON channel member, like Project Director Chris Dasinger, Company Representative TheSixxness, and M56 Smart Gunner, and team members Raunchy, Ambrosia, TheRyanSmee. I hope to see and hear from you all again very soon. Project ACHERON, bringing the knowledge and the power directly to you.